This lesson is 7-2, Finding Inverses Algebraically. In this lesson, you'll be able to generate inverses algebraically, and you need to know how to solve for a variable. You will show that you can do this by completing independent practice to 80% accuracy. We learned in a previous lesson that an inverse function is a relationship where the x and y values have been switched. And we learned how to find inverses from a table and from a graph. In this lesson, we will find them algebraically. There are two main steps that you have to go through in order to find the inverse equation algebraically. The first thing you do is you switch your x and your y, or your input and output, depending on which variables are being used. And then you solve for y, or whatever the output variable is. So let's take a look. In the first example, we are looking at the formula that converts from Fahrenheit to Celsius, and we're going to find the inverse of that. So the first thing you do is you switch your F and C. And now we are going to isolate F. So in order to isolate F, the first thing we do is multiply both sides by 5/9. 5/9 C equals 5/9 times 9/5 times F plus 32. Okay, so when we do that, these two fractions cancel out. So that's how we eliminate our fraction. We get 5/9 C equals F plus 32. So the last step would be to subtract 32 from both sides. So we get F is equal to 5/9 C minus 32. Let's look at the next example. We have our original equation, which is y equals 6x minus 7. And the first thing we're going to do is switch our x and our y. So when we do that, we get x equals 6y minus 7. Our next step would be to add 7 to both sides. And then we get x plus 7 equals 6y. And then we will need to divide both sides by 6. And by doing that, we get our inverse, which is x plus 7 over 6 equals y. And for the purposes of our assignments, we are going to write it like this. F negative 1 of x is equal to x plus 7 over 6. Just like that. In this example, example 3, we're going to algebraically generate the equation of the inverse of this function. So we have f of x equals 2/5 times x minus 3 plus 4. And of course, the first thing we do is switch our x and our y. And remember, f of x means y. So now that we've done that, we want to go ahead and distribute our fraction to the parentheses so we can eliminate the parentheses. So now we have x equals 2/5 y, because 2/5 times y is 2/5 y, minus 2, because 2/5 times negative 5 is negative 2, plus 4. And now we want to combine our like terms. So negative 2 plus 4 gives us 2. Our next step will be to multiply by 5 on both sides to eliminate the fraction. Once we do that, we end up with 5x equals 2y plus 10. And now we need to get y by itself. So now we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. And we get 5x minus 10 equals 2y. Our last step will be to divide by 2 on both sides. And we get 5/2 x minus 5 equals y. So we want to write it using function notation. So we'll write it just like this. F -1 of x is equal to 5/2 x minus 5. And that is our inverse function. In this lesson, you learned how to generate inverses algebraically. And you switched your x and your y and solved for variables. And now it's time to practice this new skill. Thank you for watching.